I want to add a little bit more on latitude and longitude, just to put in a little more detail with it. Okay, so we have two measurements. One is how far north and south you are. That's your latitude. The system is pretty simple. It's 0 degrees, like a flat angle at the equator. And if you measure from here up to there, that would be like a 90-degree angle. And so it's 90 degrees north at the North Pole, and likewise 90 degrees south at the South Pole. In other words, that's the limit. You can only go up to 90 degrees north or 90 degrees south. Here's another way of looking at it. Now we're measuring north and south. And don't be confused because the lines are around east and west, but we're measuring like a ruler against those lines. So this would be 0 degrees north, 10 degrees north, 20, and so on, up to 90 degrees north. And then it goes the other direction, going south, 10 degrees south, 20 degrees south, and so on. And when it comes to things like climate and weather, these latitude is going to be really important because, you know, it's going to be a much different environment at the North Pole than it is going to be at the equator. And likewise, it's going to be different in North Africa than it is maybe in Scandinavian countries, that these have different kinds of environments based on that gradient of latitude. This is showing the measurement of longitude. And here, you know, the Earth, it's 360 degrees around, and we divide it into two halves. It starts at 0 at the prime meridian, and then it is measured up to 180 degrees east on the other side, and up to 180 degrees west on the other. By the way, with latitude, we use the equator. And with longitude, we use what's called the prime meridian, and there's really not that much special about the physical location, but why the prime meridian is where it is because of the Royal Greenwich Observatory in London, England. So the people who devised the English system that we use today, that's where they worked. And so if you go visit there, this is supposed to show you where the actual prime meridian is. I think I read a story that with satellites, they found out that the actual prime meridian is over where their trash cans are, but that's neither here nor there. But that's why the prime meridian is here near London, England. If we look at the Earth from the top, this may be a better way to kind of visualize it. You have the prime meridian here, and then it goes all the way to 180 degrees west and 180 degrees east. So they both meet here on the other side of the Earth. So here's a way of illustrating it. This is kind of showing the angle for longitude. This is the prime meridian. And here's Freetown. And it is, the angle between them is 13 degrees, kind of a 13-degree angle. It's 13 degrees west of the prime meridian. Yeah. One thing to note about latitude and longitude is one difference is that lines that measure latitude are always the same distance from each other. They're about 69 miles for every degree. However, with longitude, let me go back one. You may notice with longitude, the lines converge at the pole. And because of that, if you're near the equator, 1 degree of latitude and longitude are pretty similar to each other. But as you go further north, the lines of longitude are kind of collapsing towards each other. So they're now 1 degree of latitude is longer than 1 degree of longitude. And as you get closer and closer to the poles, they kind of converge. So again, these are different latitudes. And one thing that we'll talk about are some unique latitudes, such as the equator the Tropic of Cancer, the Arctic Circle, and these are related to the seasons of the Earth. And the reason why they are where they are has to do with the angle of the Earth. This is tilted in space. And we'll cover that as well, but just note these are different lines of latitude, like the Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, Antarctic Circle, and so on. Just one other note about the notation of it, that latitude and longitude, historically, we've had a system of describing them in degrees and minutes and seconds, kind of like with time, where there is, for each degree of latitude, that can be subdivided into 60 minutes. So it can be, 1 degree can be chopped up into 60 minutes. And each one of those minutes can be chopped up into 60 seconds. And so, for example, you might have a location that's at 36 degrees, 30 minutes, and 0 seconds north, maybe 180 degrees, 15 minutes, 0 seconds west. But with computers, we use different notation. So I've kind of clipped out this little piece of Google Maps, and if you open Google Maps and you move around, you might see these numbers moving around on the screen. And these are actually a latitude and longitude of the center of your map display. So 36 degrees, 30 minutes can also be described as just 36.5, because 30 minutes is a half a degree. So this is just a plain old number that kind of means the same thing as this. Likewise, 180 degrees, 15 minutes can be described as 180.25, like a quarter, because that's a quarter of a degree. And we call this decimal degrees. So we're describing just degrees in their decimal place. One thing you might notice that one of these is a positive number and one of these is a negative number. And so you can use that to indicate if it's east or west, north or south. Since it's 30 degrees north, it's positive, whereas 30 degrees south would be negative. 180 degrees east would be positive, but 180 degrees west would be negative. So there's a way of just using simple numbers to describe them in a computer environment. So that's why you see here in Google Maps, this is near our campus. It would be around 36 point blah, 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 you know, north, because it's positive. And it would also be about 119 blah, 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 west, because it's negative.